you're talking 50, right?
Yeah.
Okay, alright. So like 10 minutes before, you'll probably see me in the back in the booking.
Good.
And then I'll give you a 5-minute warning too. And then at some point, we'll drag you off stage if need be.
Right, I'll try to set myself for 45 to leave 5 for questions.
Oh, perfect.
If there are.
Alright, cool. Yeah,
So,
anything you need before I run away and sit down and then probably use the bathroom 3 times?
I think you're good. I think we're good.
Okay.
I just have to take a deep breath,
Right.
set my timer.
Alright.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay? How's this level? Is all right? So here we go. Good morning, GrrCON. Good Friday morning to you. I'm SciaticNerd, and I want to talk to you today a little bit about cons and careers. But first, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. It's always there. Kind of a pain in the tush. That's right, I said tush. Kind of a weird sound to it, but the reality is imposter syndrome is this monster. Kind of like unicorn slippers or something even better. If you didn't see it, weren't here in the room, please check out Soul Crusher 86's talk. Because she talked about some of the same things, but from a different perspective, that of a manager. I'm here to talk to you about this creature that gets inside our heads and messes with us relentlessly. See, I started out, I don't know how you grew up, but in my life, my brother had the stereo system, okay? That meant I listened to whatever he wanted us to hear. And that meant Yes's 90125. A ridiculously successful album that I hated with a passion because I had to hear it so often. I heard that guitar riff start and I was just, oh, this is awful. Why do I have to wear something for me? And I found a band called The Art of Noise that I thought was kind of more my thing. It sounded different. It had nothing to do with this pop monstrosity that he adored so much. But I gotta tell you, that it kind of took a strange turn for me as years later, we're talking 20 plus years later, I was getting one of those music services, right? Everybody now, who owns an actual disc or a cassette or a record? Oh, more people than I expected. That's kind of cool. But the reality is we have access to a giant library that you can pay for month to month. And so doing that, I found 90125 all over again. And I took a new listen. And I have to say, the production quality alone impressed the heck out of me. I'm like, this is crazy. But the thing was, I was forced to listen to his tunes and his sounds, and I suddenly began to grow a new appreciation for it, and I had to wonder why. See, it turns out that the art of noise only existed because the music programmer who was working with Yes to make 90125 was working on some drum tracks with Alan White and suddenly figured out, hey, this would make a neat idea, which became the biggest hit, one of the biggest hits for The Art of Noise at all. So without my brother's band, I would never have learned about this band. It wouldn't have existed. So it's kind of a weird thing, which is not unlike figuring out your career. You don't know that the lever you pull today might become the giant shift in your career tomorrow. But what am I really talking about? Because you got to be able to make mistakes, learn from them, move on, deal with all of the shizzle that comes your way. Because you're going to discover we have to learn how to add value to other people, not just ourselves. But how do we do that for everybody? All tied together. And the thing is, to make it most beneficial, you have to see the connections between them, right? And if you're sitting in this room this morning, you obviously are willing to see what someone else's perspective might take. Because I didn't start in this place you did. We all come from somewhere else. I don't know that everybody grew up and said, oh, I remember hearing, what do you want to be when you grow up, little kid? And people would say fireman or police officer, rocket scientist, astronomer. They didn't say, I want to play with computers and get paid. It'd be kind of nice if they did, but I want to make games. How many people have heard from a younger person in their sphere, I'm going to grow up and be a streamer, right? A streamer. You're going to put your personality out there online. Well, that's what this is. This is streaming to a much smaller audience. Actually, it's probably a little bigger, to be honest, than the times I've been on Twitch. 3 views. Woo! Anyway. So this is the place where conferences really come into play. See, this is your open audience. If you've made the time, come out of your shell far enough to get here, you have taken the first step. And there are probably a half a dozen of your friends who did not come out to GrrCON or somewhere else because they're not sure this is the right environment for them. What are they going to get out of it? Last week on Twitter, that should be an actual shirt. 5 seconds ago on Twitter, someone was saying that information security conferences are a waste. They're all the same thing. They are nothing but information security professionals talking to themselves about things they already know. So really, what's the point? And I put it to you. You aren't alone, and this person made me feel alone, and they made me feel like I'm talking to a room full of the same like you're all me. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you all wear the unicorn onesie I had on last night. Number one, I spilled some dressing on it at dinner, so it's probably soiled in a way, and you shouldn't mess with that. But that's a separate story. I want to talk to you instead about we need to figure out ways to add value to other people and grow, and that's one of the ways is through maturity, which is why I have a picture of Lintile up here, because he is the picture of maturity in this industry. The reality is that we don't understand the impact we have on other people so much. Or maybe we do, and we aren't leveraging it to the best of our abilities. See, as we grow and we spend time in this industry, we tend to forget, and that's not actually just this industry, it's everybody. What was it like to be a 6-year-old and unwrapping a present? Where's that? Where is that sense of joy, wonder, and interest in each of you? In some people, it's in a tiny duck. In other people, it was forgotten long ago. We'll cover these ideas in the concept of story arcs, in an epic, a tale, yours. See, if you haven't thought about story arcs, generally it's that part of a story that helps to build it to some kind of crescendo and then leads us on into the sunset of that tale. But the thing is, only you know where you are in your current arc. There are many. I kind of see them in a specific way. But you have to, before we get really rolling, be aware of a couple of dangerous things. Disclaimer time. You have to leave the comfort of the herd. You've got to get out of your comfort zone. Maybe a little more than just coming to GrrCON or going to your local B-sides. See, there's a mission here. If you ever play an online game where there's a quest giver, I'm going to try to do my impression of that now. See, my theory is that everybody needs somebody. Even people who don't like other people have someone else to go tell that to. and not just shouting openly in social media. But where are you in that? You're going to meet jerks. You're going to meet people who frustrate you, who challenge you. You don't know they're challenging you because it sounds a lot like, meanie, why do you do the things you do? Why are you like this? Why aren't you just like everybody else? Why can't you just fit inside a box? If you're in this room, you don't fit inside that box. That's why it's a small pool. That's what information security has become, because only the people who are curious enough and had the mind for the challenge are the ones who usually get the opportunity to spend time out here. See, everyone else, they're like, where's my device? Can you help me with this? I don't, computer. I need you to fix it. Printer not working. I have a friend who texted me the other day who said they're going to take their printer outside and shoot it. So what? Why? It just won't work with the Wi-Fi. I can't make it work. You're my computer friend. Make it go. If you are that person, for somebody else, thank you for being here. This talk is for you. But realize that persistence is what pays. You're going to discover time and again, whether you're at the beginning of this thing or the end, that every time there's going to be some kind of bump. But the thing is, the trick is, the real deal, the frustrating reality is that we have to push through anyway. So in the original way, I have this listed two ways, depending on how you want to see it. We start with a discussion of conferences in general, but we move towards the story arc concept, saying, are you just learning about this? I kind of put it in a gaming, role-playing game facet, but then it came clearer in the triangle graphic going from the broad to the narrow. Are you drinking from the fire hose, or are you now becoming the GM? I want you to think about that for a minute. Because I can't tell you this, only you can tell you this. You have to look in the mirror or your selfie camera if you prefer. Maybe you stare into your dream journal. Whatever you do, make sure you know where you are. Because only you can know where the next step is going to come from. And that's okay, because you're not alone. See, there's a split there. That's really important. Knowing yourself and knowing how you interact with others, okay? So I'm not saying that you have to do this alone. Yeah, there's part of it you do. There is. The introspection, because unlike the show Fringe, there really is no way that I'm aware of that we can just see into people's heads with or without drills, and I don't want to know about that. The point is, you should be able to identify where you are going, and you want to do it because there are many kinds of events. And whether you're trying to just fill out in your local town or you're trying to take over the world by storm or by onesie, the only way to do that is to start somewhere, and I kind of see that as drinking from the fire hose. When you're drinking from that fire hose, you're going to say to yourself, but I don't understand, who's paying for all this? In many ways, you are. Your company may eventually back you, or you may find a team that supports you, or maybe your lifestyle allows for it. But if you are here and moving forward, there are tons of ways to get started. Start at home. It always starts at home. I spent, probably 3-4 years before I understood what I was doing. I went to the local meetups. I went and hung out at a Thai restaurant with some friends who said, we're getting together to talk about exploits. Want to come? I said, huh? What? Exploits? The flap is that? I work with technologies that digital lock changer, PKI. Yeah, but you like this stuff. I know you do. Come here. Okay. We ate Thai food. We hung out. There was a projector. It was literally the side room in a restaurant, and there were like 6 of us. But I gotta tell you, that's a start. In most cities, you'd be hard-pressed not to find some bastion of people going, help, I don't want to be alone in this thing that I love. Please come spend time with me. Share your love about this, share your passion, share your ideas. Why? Because if you look for these groups like, hey, DrrCON is making a big announcement, DrrCON groups. Dave Kennedy mentioned it yesterday. Big deal, coming up. It's going to launch today. Keep an eye on that Twitter feed, because there's going to be yet another way to help and connect and grow. Because if we help other people find their path, they'll help us move forward. Or we'll help them move forward. Either way, there's motion. And that's one of the big goals here, is that you actually get a chance to not just continue drinking from the fire hose unless you like that. And that's your business. But by gum, there are B-sides conferences and meetups galore that you can dig into. And when you want instead to travel and come to GrrCON, I'm from San Antonio, Texas for the last 30 years, by the way. So this is not a hop, skip, and a jump. It is an easy plane ride or two, and that's okay too. We all come from somewhere. How many people are from the Grand Rapids area-ish? Oh, that's pretty good. So that means the rest of you, how many are coming from at least one plane hop away? Let's say 2 plane hops. 2? Okay, far fewer. 1 plane hop. Man, you guys have better hub airports. I need to talk to someone about this. Okay. Anyway. The reason you come to this thing, or get out of your own box, realize there are other cultures to learn. Whether it's pop or it's soda, whether it's a simple sandwich or the way that people discuss ideas. That's what conferences are for. That's the big takeaway. No surprise, right? That's why you're here. But is it a one-off deal? Why come to more than one conference a year? I did it. I got out of the box. I went somewhere. I ate hot chicken, or I went and tried the local something. But no, this is far, far more. When you look at certain kinds of conferences. See, GrrCON is a nice broad cross-section, right? But what about ReCon or other technical specific events? Maybe you want to go to an IETF conference. You want to talk about some serious technical discussions. That's a place to do it, right? But you come here for a different kind of thing, and maybe that's what you have to find in your area, is find the conference that speaks to you about whatever it is that you love. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because there are so many, it's ridiculous. If you look online, there are things like CTF Time or CFP Time. These sites kind of aggregate all of the current goings-on as best as they can tell, and they'll give you a listing for all of the different events when the calls for presentation are around the world. If you want your mind to melt at the number of deadlines you can put on yourself, go look at these. It's amazing. But anyway, there are other giant conferences. I think we're aware of some of them. You know, whether you want to go to RSA conference, you want to go to Black Hat, big corporate events, and are you really working for the weekend at that point? Because you got to dig in and you got to walk up and shake the hand and see what the big presentation's about, and then go back to your place and then go and write up a thing, and here's my trip report, and this is what I learned, and oh, by the way, there are these great new offerings coming from our vendors, which has its place too. Because it takes all kinds. It takes all kinds, whether you're wearing your Black Dragon onesie, or you're wearing a suit and tie. And maybe that suit and tie is a rip away and you have a secret life and that's your business again. But the point is that you have these opportunities and you should take advantage of all of them that you can make yourself do. Because if you can do this, you can build a path. Where are you? How many people here think they're still drinking from the fire hose, huh? The fire hose. You don't know what you want to do yet. You are literally sitting here going, I'm trying to figure it out. Good. How long have you been doing it? Raise your hand if it's been a year. 2 years. 4 years. 10 years. Okay. If you are still drinking from the fire hose at 10 years, you probably have a lot of ideas. But maybe after that, you start to narrow because you've decided, I really dig this piece. Okay. When you dig that piece, there are all these crazy things you can do when you come to conferences, right? All these activities, and explore them. Sometimes the best thing to do is get up, leave my talk, and go and see an activity. Go outside, go play with the BattleTech bots. Go and take part in the CTF, even if you've never done it. Because this is the way you're going to learn. And if you aren't learning something new, what are you doing? Are you biding your time because you feel like you could coast through this to retirement? Or are you just saying, I'm not sure, or I'm dealing with something else right now? That's one of the big problems. So if you've made it to the end and you're like, okay, I'm in a tavern, I'm having a brew, the support job. Do not ignore the importance of said support job. This is a ridiculous thing, but it's true. That job opens all the doors. And yes, it's one of the hardest because it's onerous and it just drags and it's full of people saying, help me. and you have to talk to all of them. But that can be a great lesson in understanding how not to tick somebody off. Or maybe you learn that that's something you're really good at, and maybe that's something to focus on. The point is, you will meet the other pirates on the ship with you, and you should take this opportunity to have them help you learn the ropes. I'm not saying take advantage of them. Yes, I'm saying they're the ones who are going to help you get the start. And beyond that, if you're here, I hate to say it, it can be a dirty thing, a frustrating thing. Please get on social media, create some kind of handle for yourself. It doesn't have to be your actual name. Make it a sock monkey. That's up to you. The point is, this is your connection to the outside world when you need to ask for help. Because sometimes the pirates on your ship do not have the answers. And sometimes you can learn an amazing amount just with some basic observation about what's going on in your world. And your world is the world of InfoSec or hacking or computer security or nerds on the run. Whatever it happens to be, this is an outlet. Because it turns out that Meetup is sort of a social media site, but it actually, look in your city for not just hacking. Look in your city and please look up 2600. Of course my brain would empty while I'm standing in front of you. But look up things. Look up hacking. Look up cyber. Wait, I have to drink. I said it out loud. The point is, look up multiple terms. Several times. Save them. And then, go to them. Several of them. Especially the ones that are new, because you might meet new people. And that opens and widens your circle. And you don't know who you're going to get to talk to. And this is the problem. You have to leave the comfort of the herd. That's what we were talking about before. You must learn to force yourself to say hi. I was at an event recently where a person walked up out of the blue and reached their hand out and said hello. And they said their name and they shook my hand. And then they stopped. They had worked up enough gumption to break out of their shell, walk over and say hi. And the person I was having a conversation with looked at them, blinked a couple of times. The other person looked at me, smiled, turned, and walked off. I'm like, maybe this was their moment. They feel they're doing the thing, and maybe that's what it takes. Do that a few times. Be the person who awkwardly turns and walks off, if that's what it takes, to get you moving. Because when you connect on Discord and Reddit and Twitter and Meetup, and you never sleep again, because there's a lot to do if you actually connect to all of those things, you can find out what's going on in your community around you if you can tune out the noise. And there's a lot of noise. By the way, what's the new hotness? Because Twitter is old. What is it? Pee-wee? Me-wee. Me-wee. What else? Anything else? What about Mastodon? Is that getting any ground? What about Pluralist? No? Nothing? All right. So maybe you're just jazzed to be on the show and, your conference experience or XP is going to be learning the lay of the land and figuring out how something was done because you should go sit in talks that you would not normally sit in. Like this one. Thanks so much for being here. The reality is that we all need to expose, well, wait a minute, let me roll back how I was going to say that. We need to get the exposure of multiple types of learning. And one of the greatest accidents that happened to me was sitting in B-Sides, Las Vegas. The same friend called me up and said, you need to come check this out. I show up, we move boxes, and then I wind up on an AV team. And I sit in a room all day. It was actually a wedding chapel, but I sat in a room all day. Thanks, Iron Geek, for the break. And as I'm watching presentations I would not have selected for myself, there were ridiculously eye-opening. I didn't even know some of this stuff could be done. I'd been working in information security as a career field for 8 years. I had never even considered some of these things. Database hacks and why would you use a cell phone to trigger things remotely? Because it's cool. Because you can. Because, well, why would you set that up? Harder detection. Oh, okay. But these are things you need to be thinking about. And what kind of signals are you looking for? Cool. I didn't know what that stuff was for, but listen for the punchlines and then go talk to people. I saw a talk where it turns out they could take over the Teredo interface of Windows. And it didn't take an actual physical connection. That was pretty cool. I could get a network connection on another person's box without I walked up and shook the person's hand. That's amazing. I don't know if it's actually something true. I don't know if I can do the proof of concept myself. But it's cool to know that it's possible. But then, how does this help your career? It helps build a pattern for you that can repeat itself time and again. This can build you up, your team up, your work life. It can enhance your abilities. What I'm trying to get at is get exposure, figure out who's here, figure out how to bridge the gap between the companies and the community. See, if you only do this at work, well, maybe that's not going to grow your career. See, one of the things in the previous presentation, Soul Crusher 86 mentioned that sometimes you get stuck because your manager isn't pushing you to grow. But I learned from another company experience that sometimes if they don't have the program in place, you have to make your own. And that's why I'm telling you this. Because you're going to develop your own self-crafted way ahead. Because that's what you can crack yourself out of the shell to do. And to do that, this is going to demonstrate an interest in learning that could be seen as valuable at your current job because you're going and breaking out of your own shell to work on it. You're taking the time to attend things, maybe take some notes, meet a few new people from other companies in your city or area, and bring back a technique. If you're on a detections team, maybe you get a script or collaborate on a script outside with someone, and that helps open a door that way. At least keep your ears open for other job opportunities or their specific training that might be coming, because maybe you don't get the community calendar at your work. But all of these things then spill out and over, hopefully, so that you can bring something and share with your coworkers. But overall, sorry, that was too fast. But overall, it's about that growth personally. We have to be able to recognize that we have to take the steps in our own journey, because no one else is going to do it for us. And when I left school, I said, this is it, I'm done. I don't want to do this again. I left high school and I'm like, I'm done. Now, it turns out I wound up going to college, and then I said, I am really done. I'm so tired of this structured after someone else's learning. And then I realized what kind of awesome it was to have someone else tell me that there were kind of breakdowns in time, and that that's where the beginning and endings were. See, the book didn't write itself afterwards. I found that there have to be chapter markers, but I didn't know how to make them. And as I've done this over the last 18 years, I've discovered that you can push. And in that pushing, offer to work on something else with someone that you don't know how to do. Offer to take time and spend time with someone who maybe feels they're out on an island, and you could just offer some time and attention. And that can help give you things, because things like that'll help you. Skills is where I'm trying to go. Because your intelligence alone won't save you. Being the smartest person in the room is no good if no one wants to talk to you. Or maybe you lack the ability to translate it into something they get. Being smart is awesome. Being able to communicate with other people and relate, that helps. Cool story, bro. You don't know me. Because, I'm dealing with this whole thing right here. The elephant right there. Imposter syndrome. That's like a level boss, okay? Imposter syndrome is your level boss, and you have to defeat it. It's like looking in the mirror and realizing you may not be a movie star, but you are the rock star in your story. And you have to find a way to make that work. Because today maybe it's the ability to get out of bed. Maybe tomorrow it's the ability to go through that level interview you have to deal with. But if you do it, you can find a new chapter in your story. Unless you're really cool with the one you're in. And that's, again, something you have to fight and discover for yourself. Because now we're up to the second arc, specialization. Now is the time when you're like, okay, I think I see this thing. I think I see where I want to go. And as I'm dealing with this, I'm going to find a way to push through and only focus on X. Or X and Y. And what is the value there? Because now as you've worked your way through, and by the way, it may have taken you a couple of years. We just went over, hey, a couple of years, 4 years, maybe 10 years. As you move forward in that, you have to decide when you realize you've turned the page. And now what you're doing as you choose, now you can start to really select and work on these things. And, there are free resources out there. But it's kind of a thing that you have to fight for. See, now you're on a mission, and when you go to an event, now you're going to start realizing you only want to talk to specific people. Which is good. Take that time. Go talk to the presenters who interest you. Sure, that's why you're here. That's what you've done. But it's a natural progression to want to build these interests. And at larger, more nationally driven conferences, you'll find a broader cross-section. Bigger names, not necessarily, just people who are more experienced. Go talk to them. See, what I'm saying is, go to your local meetups and use that as your practice ground, okay? And you start to build your understanding of yourself and of the community around you. But then, force yourself to go to another event further away. Just to see how they say it. Just to see if there's another way to do the same thing that you maybe didn't think about. And that might open the door to something else. And as you're working through this, go back and tell your people what you learned. A friend of mine, a mentor of mine, encouraged me to make a con trip report for myself. I'm not giving this to anybody else. I take notes. I sit in talks. I write these things down because they either spur ideas that I might be able to get to later, because you don't know where it could come in handy. What's the port for Telnet? Anybody? What? Close. There we go. The point is that's, boom, frustrating as it is, we just, okay, cool. Now we know part of that because we weren't thinking about it before. What's the port for SMTP? Okay. This is the point. Just to force us to say, okay, did I have a chance to go over something I thought I knew and maybe I learned something extra? This is the time to find your tribe. Whether your tribe dresses up, dresses down, or just wears dresses. The point is to take an opportunity to figure out who your people are, spend time with them, and go to a conference with a buddy. Start out with a buddy. If you can, a buddy system is awesome. Whether that's your spouse, your significant other, your buddy from the reading club, drag them with. Because it's just hard to deal with this sometimes completely alone, because you'll find you're sitting in your room the whole time, and if you're at a conference that does it, that may mean just watching presentations on television, which you can do at home now. Why be here live? Because you have the benefit of seeing all of these other awesome people. And that's what this is for. Networking! Nobody seems excited by that. I have gotten to meet some amazing people, sometimes in a cab ride or ride share from the airport. Sometimes it's on the shuttle next to it. I ran into a gentleman in the airport, and Al, I apologize now. I misread the times and I came late and I missed you, sir. We were standing in the airport, the connecting airport, and I recognized him and he recognized me from our shirts. That we were both nerds. Nerds. Proud nerd. Nerd forward. But as you're living this life and figuring out your career, you have to find people you can connect with and make that work with. So that's why it's so important to find your tribe, so that when you go to a con and you go with a buddy, you start to learn the lay of the land so you can build up from there. And now you bring these ideas back with you and they can help you in your current career. You can use it to help build a bridge to your management, to other people. And when you're talking to your coworkers after this, now that you've spoken, or rather selected things to bring back, it can actually open other doors, because now other teams will want to talk to you, and if they don't, you have to go find them. You have to keep going out. You have to keep pushing beyond the boundaries of your own walls, because you can get to a point where this comes back to you. See, the more connected you stay and the more you read about, you're going to grow how you connect to other people, because you'll start to find that they connect back with you. And now you start building a community online, which is being in a group of people larger than yourself, larger than your local friend group. I have found that I have a tribe that extends across multiple cities in this entire InfoSec space. I can go to almost any city I can think of off the top of my head right now, which isn't a lot because I haven't had that much caffeine, and I could probably call someone or at least DM them and have someone meet me for lunch if they're available. It's kind of awesome. Because there are a lot of really good people. Yes, I know, we're thinking about lunch. However, the end does not always come quickly. It may not be a single year or 2 years. This may take longer. You have to take that time to look in the mirror and discover who you are and what part of the story you're in. But we come back to, yeah, that's nice. It's great that you're telling me this is something I can do for myself, but you don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I'm dealing with, because I'm dealing with my own imposter syndrome, right? So how do you level up past that? And the answer is, you have to sometimes plateau and deal with it and push. And when you don't know how to push, ask someone else to help you. It's okay to do that, right? To ask for help, isn't that one of the hardest things, actually? Oh my gosh, I have learned over the years, I've tried to be very, very self-sufficient. So sometimes it sucks endlessly to have to reach out to someone and tell them, I'm stuck. Could you help me, please? And you don't know what form that takes necessarily, but you're going to work on it, and you'll fail a lot. And that's okay too, because guess what? As long as things go the right way, and I'll say it, God willing and the river don't rise, tomorrow's another day, and you get to try again. And maybe you shouldn't have had that pizza at 11:30 at night. And that's your business. But we move on. Now you're up to the prestige class. Maybe you've gone the distance and you have gotten enough of that fire hose and you've gone to enough talks and you've listened to enough people, you've read enough books, you've done enough personal work. You are now the one giving the talks. This is the level. This is the level where you turn the tide, where you're no longer just drinking, but you're pouring out. And as you start to pour out, you have a whole new challenge that you weren't maybe thinking about at the time. Now it's time to consider doing this. Public speaking! And everybody slinks into their chairs. Because who wants to stand in front of a bunch of people and spill your guts? But I gotta tell you, grab your hairbrush and get in front of the mirror and pretend you're Larry the Cucumber or whatever you have to do, because this is a valuable skill. Being able to do this can change everything. Wait. Oh, sorry. I shortened this. More time on this slide. When preparing to speak in front of people, it's a great idea to practice. To take the hairbrush, stand in front of the mirror, and go through it. If you have the wherewithal, record yourself. And then watch it. You ever recorded yourself and then watched it back? You see all the dancing you do. You learn that you gotta, get your steps in while you're presenting. It can be dangerous because you have to learn to watch your body language. Learn to do the things or learn not to do the things that you tend to do so that you can convey a message more clearly. Maybe you have to practice your S's and your R's and your T's. Maybe you need to tease your hair less. Whatever the reason, spend the time to plan for being live. Doing a demo? Who here saw Dave Kennedy's keynote yesterday? Okay. What did he do? One live demo, one recorded demo. The one he knew he could succeed at live in front of people is the one he did. The other one that was a little more complex, he was wise, he recorded, and he only played it back. And you may need to rely on those recordings. Make backup recordings and bring them with you. Bring them on a thumb drive. Have the whole thing ready to go, and remember to bring your adapter. I work on AV teams. Please remember to bring your adapter. Have I said it enough? This thing, it's a dongle. Please don't forget to bring it, because you can't be guaranteed that the team where you're going is going to have whatever System 76, 1976 machine that you brought. So make sure you have your stuff with you, even in a backed up PDF file. But, that's just my little set of mishigas right there. And it's important to get out there, because when you go for it, when you get your talk accepted outside of your parents' house, or your friend's home, or your meetup, it's the greatest and most terrifying feeling in the world, because now I have to actually do the thing. I have to build the slides. I have to stand up here in front of all of you and ask you to believe that I mean this, that I'm speaking with passion, because I honestly believe this is the reason my career has moved forward. The ability to go to meetups, learn to talk to people, hey, how's it going? Hi, you having a good day? Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. This is an extraordinarily difficult thing to do without shaking, wetting myself. Well, not actually whatever. The point is, it's not easy, but you can do it. If I can do this, you can do this. This is something you must learn to do, to move past the level, to get to the level of pouring out. No, you can actually do that without standing up and presenting to people, but guess what? It makes it a heck of a lot easier and opens more doors, because the ability to present well is an essential part of this nutritious breakfast. We have to realize that communication is key. That's why there are literally thousands, well, that and Iron Geek and the team of AV people and other cons who share their videos routinely online, because we realize the importance of sharing and growing together. Okay? Now, how does this provide value to your management? Endlessly. Your management will adore you. They will give you new opportunities. They will find literally any excuse to put you up in front of other people, because now they don't have to do it. And it also demonstrates that they have people on their team who have skills. Because if you know what you're saying, they want to share that because it looks good for them, looks good for the team. It's valuable. Not only that, they might send you out to a conference, and now you get to go on someone else's dime and enjoy that. But it's not just that, because when you go and you network, you get to build connections with other people, bring that back and grow further. And not just for them, but for yourself. See, it's terrific to be fronted by a company. I've seen several people in the last couple of days who have, at the bottom of their slide deck, they have a discrete logo, and maybe they're sponsoring. And that's awesome, because those companies are willing to help provide a way for us to come out and do this, to share with each other, to grow. But when you're doing this thing and trying to speak in public, it will help with your own self-confidence. Because once you've stood up in front of people and tried to strut a little bit and do a thing, and I look terrible doing that, we have to understand that that's part of growth in giving back. And giving back comes in many forms, right? Presenting at a conference now levels you up in a different way. You are now mixing with other presenters, other people who have made it this far. What do they have that you don't have? Not a thing, except the experience of standing on a stage and giving the presentation, knowing what it takes to gather it together. See, you're going to be able to catch all the mistakes that I've made, and you'll be able to tell them to me if you so desire. Or you'll post about it on Twitter saying, that guy didn't talk about this, or he doesn't understand that. Okay, stand up here and do that. Correct it. Do better. Come up here and do better. Come up here and tell everybody what it takes to do better. And that's perfectly fine, because you should, because it's better for you. So, cool story, bro. You don't know what I'm going through. This is a different thing. You're asking all this stuff and you don't know a thing about what I've had to deal with to get here. I am loaded with imposter syndrome like a pustule ready to burst, and so is everyone else. Well, okay, I don't know about the bursting part. That'd be kind of gross. But sometimes that's funny too, even if it shouldn't be. Fourth arc, your turn as GM. Now you've turned around and you've said, I am going to move beyond just presenting. I'm going to try to give back by either starting a meetup, or I'm going to put on an event, or I'm going to coordinate something at work. How am I going to do that? Oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me aside from a lot of stress? Now you're trying to put on a new mission. I want other people to help each other, because maybe I don't have the skill set you have. And I know I don't. I'm not an incident responder. I am not a red teamer. The only box I broke was the one that got shipped to me from a major retailer. And that took a box cutter. So, not really more than brute force. Not something I'm going to brag about. So what can I share with you? I can share with you that if I can build an event, if you build it, they will come. Maybe. I helped coordinate a local B-Sides in San Antonio. And this is now my 5th year going into it, doing it. And I have to say it's one of the most rewarding things I have been able to do in this industry. Because seeing other people mingling, having an awesome time, learning from each other, sharing what they know, and networking, but not like traditional, hello, and they just start talking to each other and they get to break bread together and see people connect. Oh my gosh, it's like a drug. And it's worth it, because it helps other people get where they're going. Because even if I can't finish my story, even if I can't find a way to get to that I'm pouring out, I'm sharing all the cool technical things. I have an opportunity and I'm taking it. Someone walked up to me and said, you've been helping me with this for 3 years. It's your turn. Are you going to do it? Man, I froze. Have you ever had someone walk up and offer you something and like, here, no, just take it. And you knew that it would be really scary. What goes into all that? Be thankful for willing partners who are like, we see you sinking and we don't want you to drown. Come here. Because that's what happened. Because I ran into some tough challenges. And it all goes into another story. But I'm going to tell you that it's ridiculous to realize that all these new challenges will make you realize that you never knew that table coverings were expensive. And what the heck is oxygen-free butter anyway? I have no idea. But it's one of those weird things. You find out all new challenges, and that's fine. You're going to learn the details of whatever it is you're chasing. And when you're trying to do this, you're going to need help. Lots of help. So if you're going to go out there and put on your own events, you're going to go on and just try to help other people find each other, realize that you're not alone even then, because you put yourself into another pool of people to mix. You're now seeing what they've gone through. You get an inkling of what it's like to run a GrrCON or a DerbyCon or a ShmooCon. There are these huge events all over the world. You can be part of DEF CON China and go volunteer. In fact, I recommend rampant volunteerism. Rampant volunteerism. Volunteer for everything. As long as your timeline supports it and you can afford the hotel stay or whatever it is you're doing. And you can see some amazing conferences because conferences cost a lot of money. Sometimes a conference like the VIP level is ridiculously expensive, but if you volunteer, put in your time. In your local space, in your local area, volunteer at the local meetup. Go volunteer at the B-sides. There's probably one in your city or one nearby. Drive to it. Get a buddy. Go there. The B-sides is going to be free to maybe $50. Pretty affordable, right? Well, what about gas? What about food? What about, great. Do that instead of trying to go to GiantCon that costs $300 plus driving plus sandwiches or whatever top ramen noodle thing you have to live on in order to afford to go to GiantCon. So there are cons that are a little closer that maybe offer a decent value as well, but from those you can find other people crazy enough to support you in your vision if you're at this level and you want to put something else on. See it happen all the time. Now, because I was crazy enough to step forward and accept the challenge that was offered to me. Really? Oh, cool. You're handing me this? What do I do? Hello? Wait, where are you going? You're moving? What am I supposed to do now? Panic. Get help. That's funny. You're talking like we all just wake up in the morning and go do this thing because, you don't know, I'm trying to feed a family and I'm trying to figure out my education and I've got debilitating fill in the blank and it sucks. Yes, it does. And thank you for being willing to listen to that because we are all filled with imposter syndrome. We're all stuck. But beware the beast of burnout because once you push that hard, you're kind of in trouble. You're so done. You're so tired of N+1 and things suck. Well, fine. Go back to the beginning and take a break, but look for the reboot. Look for the thing that helps you. What did you like about it in the first place? If it was incident response, did you really enjoy digging into the logs and discovering what had happened? Maybe if you're a red teamer, you just like breaking things in half like pretzels. Who knows? The point is to go back to your own beginning and figure out what it is, because the beast of burnout will tear you apart and leave you feeling dejected, not wanting to do anything, like there's no forward momentum at all. And you have to defeat it. You have to find someone else who's going to reinvigorate you, or you're going to have to just take a break or change career or direction entirely. But you may be surprised at the support you find when you reach out and say, this sucks and I'm going through something and I need some help. And that's the hardest thing, is to ask for that help. Please realize there are tons of people on Twitter and social media who are going through it too, and a lot of folks will come surprisingly well out of the woodwork if you just ask. So now the adventure continues. You go on to the chapter that's uncharted. See, there isn't just at the end of that little graph from earlier, there isn't just a sunset to ride off into. That's called the next chapter. And I don't know what it is. And you should be excited to find it, because once you're there, all new things can happen. Like right now, I've been offered an opportunity through my work. They've invited me to join a Hack the Box team. I have never done anything like this. I've never done a CTF, and I'm excited to figure out what it takes to do one and sit in a room with blinky lights and oons music, actually doing something. I've always walked by and seen people intensely digging into their screens and keyboards, not knowing what it is they're actually up to. So for the very first time ever, I actually have enumerated a box with Nmap, and it's the most exciting thing. And it's brand new to me, and I'm going to go down that road and see where it takes me. Because that's the next adventure. Because we need each other. You have to find someone willing to listen. I have a couple of good friends who have been willing to listen to my ideas, and I've listened to theirs. And we have exchanged ideas and concepts about talks and the ways to build those talks and the directions to take them in. Just because we share ideas with each other doesn't mean that either person is going to accept all of the advice, but it's really, really cool to have a sounding board. It's amazing to have someone to share this with who isn't just yourself. Because honest feedback really will make things better. So be willing to listen when they're like, don't say it that way. Don't even talk about that. That's okay. Which is easy for me to say, right? Because I'm standing up here in front of all of you. But I tell you the truth that if the underperforming kid who hid in the AV room back in 7th grade can stand up here and do this and find their way out of their shell, it is possible. It is so possible and so worthwhile to take the steps to move beyond it. We put on a heck of a B-Sides in San Antonio. We have now reached over 620 people at our little event, and we're on track this year, 2020 that is, for us to get around 800 or so, which to me is amazing, because we started at 200, 125, I don't know. Definitely isn't as big as this. And you know what? It's awesome to see growth. Cool story, bro. You don't know me, but we could. Maybe we should chat afterwards. Happy to talk. You've seen that for the last hour. But this imposter syndrome, we each have to fight it in our own way. Don't be afraid of it as much as be aware of it. And when it rears its head, ask yourself, ask for help, write it down. What is it that is in particular biting you in the tail today? Put it on paper in front of you so you can see it. Because once you can see it, maybe you can write up a plan to defeat it. You write up a note with a goal, and you write up a note, put a date on it. That becomes a goal. You look at a goal, you break it down, you now have a plan or the sketch to defeat it. And you can work on your own level, boss. We are building a community together.